Jad bringing out another zoner, avoiding the sweep. We are in game 4. Poiman obviously stuck on the Arakune for the rest of the set. Jad bringing out the Hilda. Hilda, I think, is a pretty... I actually have not played a lot of Hilda. I've only played maybe a couple games of Hilda. She seemed alright. She seemed kind of trolly more than anything. With her boosts, like the light and the darkness, like those boosts are very trolly. And then her backside, just being able to push or pull on will at the for gauge expenditures is very trolly. Doesn't have a ton of damage behind that, as we see Arakune cross into range 1. Makes sense. Hilda's a quote-unquote zoner. Although Hilda's like normal zoning tools on turn 1. Basically just the skewer, right? And skewer doesn't perform super well against Arakune. Grasp into the focus. Good start here for Arakune. Will only take 1 damage. We'll deal 4 back. Draw a card as well. Arakune still has a sweep on deck as well. But yeah, like I was saying, the main early game zoning tool, right, is that skewer, and then sometimes you mix up the Revenant Pillar, which is her 2-speed fireball, or the Condensity Gloom as well, which is also a 2-speeder. But Arakune's answers to that, right, like a permutation would prevent a range 4 skewer, right, and would only cost 1 force to deal 5 and discard a card. That's very good value. We're actually going to see Poiman opt for a range 1 permutation here. Just really aggressive. He has to discard 3 cards for this. Drops the focus. Says, I don't want that focus in my overdrive. Drops the Disjoint Union from hand as well. Drops the blocks. This permutation, spending 3 force on it. Again, we saw this be the start of the downfall of Arakune's game 3. We saw just an overexpenditure of resources in the early game from Arakune, causing him to basically just lose the game outright. Focus will obviously hit back for 4. Drops the Impalement out of Hilda's hand. That's a pretty good pull. Impalement's a pretty annoying ultra to deal with, honestly. It's 3 to 8, 2, 6 for each card spent from gauge that's in the range to your opponent, or something like that. It gets +2 power, so normally you pop a couple skewers in there, and suddenly you have a 3 to 8, 6, 6 for 2 gauge, which is pretty good, especially for a Season 6 character. But that gets discarded by Arakune. Arakune did not... Why did Arakune not use the hit effect on his UA? As we see sweep into the interference. Sweep will go first, hit for 6. Interference will hit back for 4, and will push 2. So interference is another trolley card. Just pushes you a billion if you play a fast option. But yeah, there's I don't know, it's weird, right? Because Arakune should have definitely taken a 5er. First of all, that block's on top. I don't know why that block's on top. That block should not be on the top. That block should be on the bottom, because you're never going to be overdrawing with 0. You gotta put the 5 on top. You gotta put the Disjoint Union on top. There's a little bit of just Arakune shenanigans. Are we gonna see Poiman respond with a super undercurve dive to beat out like a skewer, maybe? Yeah, and that's exactly what happens. Although skewer can pull, notably, and make the dive miss. So it actually doesn't beat out the skewer like I thought it would. The pull option is looking really good here. Force Arakune into the corner as well, where Hilda can just cross out for free. And yeah, that's exactly what Jad will take. Don't really see any other option there. But yeah, like I was saying, it's so Arakune's hit effect on his UA at the top card of your discard to your overdrive on your specials and ultras is an optional thing. I just looked it up. But I don't know, Arakune should have really ordered the discard better, put the 5er on top. As we're going to see Hilda strike with what is almost assuredly cross. The FFG would have been a cool response to it, but no. It is just going to be the cross. I really... you know, if this was a casual game, seeing that FFG as the cross catcher would have been super hype. But, and we see Poiman go for risks like these as well, so... But even that was too risky for Poiman. So it looks like Poiman is going to boost the wall teleport. We'll advance to the other side of the board. Hilda pretty low on cards now, only has 2 cards in hand. We'll have to prepare. Arakune striking with the on-curve Assault. Obviously, range 3 mix up here, live for Arakune Assault Dive Spike. Arakune has a couple extra kinks to that as well. So we need the Trifurcate. Notably, the Trifurcate would have missed against the Spike. But the Assault will deal 3 damage to the Trifurcate. The Trifurcate will hit back for 4. Arakune will gain advantage. Trifurcate's hit effect adds the top card of discard to some zone. I don't really remember what zone. I would assume it's Gauge, but is it not? It actually adds the bottom card of your discard to your Gauge or hand. So a little bit of recursion there for Hilda, just for funsies. Poiman saying that you only took 3, you should have taken 3. And whatever, they seem to have resolved it. As Poiman opts to prepare here, has 4 cards in the discard Gauge, so really falling behind there. As we outlined in the last game, Arakune's main win con is that Overdrive. Just to get that +2 power, +1 speed on basically every single combat card. We'll see Hilda opt for the Exceed side. So, as we were discussing earlier, I hope you didn't hear my water bottle hit my mic, is we'll see Poiman go for the mid speed here, the Destroy Union 4-3-5, before push 3 or 4. Into the Trifurcate. Trifurcate is the perfect response to that, because Trifurcate will... Actually, Trifurcate, Poiman can technically make both of these miss. And maybe he should consider doing that. Because notably, Disjoint Union can push 4, which means that the Disjoint Union whiffs, and then the Trifurcate whiffs as well. But no, Poiman looks like he's willing to take this trade. Again, like, just really looking unfavored into the Hilda. Especially now that Hilda has backside online with a billion Gauge. Just so many combat options become free here for Hilda. With just like moving the opponent and then striking. For some reason, Jad took the grasp and put it into their hand. We're gonna see F-piece wise will not work into the skewer, unfortunately. Skewer will deal 2 damage and either a push or a pull, presumably a push, and yet there's a push coming out from the Hilda. As we see Jad like hiding his Gauge a little, or hiding their Gauge a little bit. Again, I don't know Jad's gender, so I should stop saying he. I should say they. Jad doing a little trick there, hiding their Gauge, spending the skewer, which is interesting. Notably, so Jad is just like spending Gauge randomly to push, but you do want to keep certain cards in your Gauge. Notably, your skewers are really good because they perform well. They play well with the impalements. So Jad being a little bit needs to be a little bit more cautious, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So we're going to see the mix-up come out from Hilda. Hilda take a step back to range 7 and striking. Notably, the only cards that hit are Impalement and Skewer. This is going to be another copy of Skewer. We'll do 2 damage. Jad will draw a card. Notably now, but like, look, this scenario, right? We're looking at the Gauge. Impalement no longer kills. It's sad, right? Impalement no longer kills at 3-8-6-6 because there's no second skewer in the Gauge, right? So you do have to be a little bit more judicious with your Gauge expenditures on the Hilda backside. You can't just toss your Gauge out like that willy-nilly. Really want to be keeping your skewers in there. But anyway, Arakune range 7. This is looking pretty tough here. Only 3 cards in hand. Does at least have a block to stall out a little bit. Has an F inverse as well to stall out as well. Actually can't stall out with the F inverse because has more than 3 Gauge. Or more than 2 Gauge. Sorry, 3 or more Gauge. So we're going to see Hilda now boosting respect for 0. Saying Arakune strike into me, but like you could have just prepared instead. This is... respect for 0 is not a thing that works mathematically, right? because you just prepare instead. We're going to be tossing out a Condensity Gloom there, probably to catch out the dive assault shapes. Unfortunately, it's the if P then Q, so the if P then Q does not have to advance forward. However, not advancing forward would be kind of bad. So wait, is Arakune just throwing the game? Yeah, you can't do that, my guy. The Condensity Gloom would hit. So yeah, actually really good placement on the Condensity Gloom there for Jad, preventing the if P then Q from advancing. I mean, I guess it was, simplistic placement. Where else would you place it if Arakune is initiating a strike? You could place it one forward, I guess, but, good placement there from Jad, regardless. Preventing Arakune from advancing to his death, as Poiman notes. Back to Jad here, whose interference again, or impalement again, cannot kill because of the poor gauge expenditure from... We're going to see a respect from Zero again from Jad. Again, like, preparing is better. Hilda will dive into the focus. Hilda now finds herself at range 4. Maybe that's better, though, for Hilda. Although, no, range 7's probably still better. But no, Hilda initiating another strike here. Not another strike, just a strike here. Poiman with a hand of F inverse, F of G. That hand's not going to do very much. It's going to be the Into Darkness at the range 4. So this is Hilda's basically Propeller Knights Ultra. It's a 4/2/7. Basically alters movements, or alters opponent positioning and draws you a bunch of cards and then gets you advantage as well. Whereas Propellers only pull 3, gain advantage for 5 power. This one's only 2 power, but allows you to draw 3 cards in the process. Notably, Arakune had to be pulled, otherwise that F of G would have hit back. But of course it's Hilda's advantage. Hilda does have a gauge to push to range 3 if she so desires. Hilda striking at range 2. Unfortunately, no 3 gauge for the F inverse, so yeah, that on-curve cross will beat basically anything that Arakune throws. Arakune could, in theory, armor, but then would find himself at range 5, and that's just a bad time. Hilda taking game 4 in quite a quick manner. We are going the distance here, folks. This is going to be a full game 5 set. Jad looking for the reverse sweep against Poiman's Arakune. Can he do it? I guess we'll find out soon, won't we? Take care.